في حصص تحليلية مميزة. إذاعة الجزائر الدولية، صوتنا في العالم.
With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf was today received in Bern by the President of the Swiss National Council, Mr. Pierre-André Page, to assess the various aspects of the relationship of friendship and cooperation between Algeria and Switzerland. An extraordinary session of the Arab League Council at the level of permanent representatives began today in Cairo to discuss Israeli actions in occupied Jerusalem, including the approval of a law allowing the execution of Palestinian prisoners. In Sudan, as clashes intensified between the army and the paramilitary support forces, further displacement has been recorded. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Smeni. The Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defence and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, Army General Said Chingri, had chaired today the 19th session of the Steering Council of the Higher Military School, according to the provisions of the Presidential Decree dated September 26, 2025 or 2005, establishing this school. Mr. Chingri opened the council meeting, noting that global geopolitical shifts are creating a new world order, presenting southern countries with complex strategic choices.
يشهد السياق الجيوسياسي العالمي الراهن.
The current global geopolitical context is characterized by shifts in the international balance of power that are paving the way for the emergence of a new world order, a situation which presents the countries of the South with complex strategic choices. Today, the position of states is no longer guaranteed by the glories of the past, but depends on their ability to continuously strengthen their geostrategic and structural resources, consolidate their popular and economic stability, adapt their defense systems, and develop their scientific and technological capabilities. In this context, forward-looking planning, flexibility in decision-making, and the ability to mobilize all the state's resources and its comparative advantages become the fundamental guarantee for maintaining an active presence in a changing and unstable world.
General Chingri added that under President Tebboune, the army continues to modernize defenses, train personnel, secure supply chains, counter misinformation, and review objectives for the 2026-2027 training year. As you followed in our top stories, the Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, was today received in Bern by the President of the Swiss National Council, Mr. Pierre-André Page, as part of his official visit to the Swiss Confederation. The meeting was an opportunity to assess the various aspects of the relationship of friendship and cooperation between Algeria and Switzerland, and to highlight the common political will to further strengthen them. The two sides also examined ways in which the parliaments of both countries can contribute to efforts to strengthen the bilateral partnership, in particular through the activation of the various mechanisms offered by parliamentary diplomacy. The Minister of State in charge of hydrocarbons and mines, Mr. Mohamed Al-Qab, has received in Algiers the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization, Farid Ghazali, on a welcome visit to Algeria on the occasion of his participation in the 8th Conference of the Algerian Gas Industry Association. The details in this report by Mr. Sharfi.
The meeting allowed an exchange of views on ways to strengthen cooperation between Algeria and APO in the oil and gas sectors, notably in training, research and development, as well as in developments in international energy markets and prospects for African partnership in the context of global energy transformations. The two parties also discussed organizational matters, the organization's roadmap, progress on the African Energy Bank (BAE) project, and its role in supporting Africa's petroleum, gas and energy industries, stressing the importance of member state coordination. In this context, the Minister of State reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to support African countries through expertise in exploration, production, processing and training via the Algerian Institute of Petroleum (IIP), while Mr. Ghazali thanked Algeria for its ongoing support, praising its leadership in human resource development, training and energy sector research and innovation. Since the creation of APO in 1987, Algeria has continued to play a central role in supporting common African action, strengthening cooperation and the exchange of expertise, thereby contributing to consolidating the continent's position as a strategic energy source and promoting the sustainable development of its peoples.
Algeria and Tunisia have examined in Algiers ways and means to strengthen their bilateral cooperation in the fields of energy, hydrocarbons, mines and renewable energies, focusing on electricity interconnection projects as well as the exploitation and processing of phosphate products. The talks took place during the meeting granted at the ministry headquarters by the Minister of State in charge of hydrocarbons and mines, Mohamed Arqab, and the Minister of Energy and Renewable Energies, Mourad Adjel, to the President of the National Council of Regions and Districts of the Tunisian Republic, Imad Derbeli, on an official visit to Algeria at the head of parliamentary delegation. On the occasion, both parties reviewed joint projects including Algeria-Tunisia electricity interconnection and phosphate mining cooperation, while the ministers outlined sector development programs and reaffirmed their commitment to strengthen institutional cooperation for a sustainable economic partnership. The Minister of Communication, Mr. Zohair Bouamama, has received the Minister of Communication and New Technologies of Niger, Mr. Adji Ali Salatou, along with the accompanying delegation. During the meeting, the two parties reviewed the implementation of the second Algeria-Niger High Joint Commission's conclusions, including finalizing the media cooperation agreement and updating bilateral audiovisual and print media agreements. On the occasion, Mr. Bouamama expressed Algeria's willingness to strengthen media cooperation with Niger through training and expertise exchange, noting that this reflects the shared vision of Presidents Tebboune and Tiani and aims to deepen cooperation and strengthen ties between the two peoples. Mr. Salatou, for his part, highlighted his commitment to implementing the Niamey agreements, strengthening media cooperation and promptly ratifying the agreement, while thanking Algeria for its support and praising the leaders' will to advance Algeria-Niger relations. The Minister of Justice, Mr. Lutfi Boujama, who is on a two-day working visit to Ethiopia, has met in Addis Ababa with the Minister of Justice of Ethiopia, Ms. Hannah Araya-Selassie. The two sides signed 3 draft agreements in the field of judicial cooperation. A memorandum of understanding aimed at strengthening institutional cooperation was also signed. The Council of the Nation has taken part via video conference in the 41st session of the Executive Committee of the Interparliamentary Arab Union. More with Mr. Sharfi.
Entrusted by the President of the Council of the Nation, Mr. Azouz Nasri, the President of the Presidential Third Parliamentary Group at the Council of the Nation and member of the IAPU Executive Committee, Mr. Saad Arous, participated in this meeting, chaired by the President of the People's National Assembly APN and the President of the AIPU, Mr. Brahim Boughali. Mr. Boughali stressed the need to strengthen Arab presence in international parliamentary fora through joint action and unified positions, noting that the remote meeting held in an exceptional context that led to postponing the 39th AIPU Congress reflects a shared commitment to ensuring continuity and enhancing coordination. He noted that the agenda includes strengthening Arab coordination within the Interparliamentary Union (IPU) ahead of the 152nd General Assembly of the IPU from April 15th to 19th, 2026, examining the emergency clause and its voting procedure, expanding coordination with other geopolitical groups, notably the draft memorandum of cooperation with the African Group, as well as financial and organizational issues, including the Union's 2025 financial balance and exemptions requests submitted by certain member states, reflecting the Union's commitment to transparency, good governance, and financial discipline. The meeting included 16 AIPU Executive Committee members to discuss emergency clauses for the 152nd IPU General Assembly in Istanbul, notably the Arab Parliamentary Group's submission and measures to strengthen joint Arab action and representation, especially for the Palestinian cause.
The Algerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry has signed with the British counterpart a memorandum of understanding aimed at strengthening bilateral cooperation and promoting partnership and investment opportunities in various economic and commercial sectors between the two countries. Now to the Middle East. An extraordinary session of the Arab League Council at the level of permanent representatives began today in Cairo, chaired by Bahrain, which currently holds the presidency of the Council's 165th session. The meeting was convened at the request of the State of Palestine, with the support of member states to discuss Israeli actions in occupied Jerusalem, including the closure of the Islamic and Christian holy sites and the Israeli parliament's approval of a law allowing the execution of Palestinian prisoners. A number of foreign ministers of Arab and Muslim countries have strongly condemned the Israeli occupying powers' enactment of a law in its parliament to allow the imposition of the death penalty in the occupied West Bank and its de facto application against Palestinians. The ministers warned against the increasingly discriminatory, escalating occupier practices that entrench a system of apartheid and a rejectionist discourse that denies the fundamental rights and the very existence of the Palestinian people in the occupied Palestinian territory. The ministers underscored that this legislation constitutes a dangerous escalation, particularly given its discriminatory application against Palestinian prisoners, and stressed that such measures risk further exacerbating tensions and undermining regional stability. As the situation is deteriorating in the Middle East, the UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric said that the killing of the peacekeepers UNIFIL is unacceptable, adding that these incidents demand full accountability.
To the Middle East, as the situation continues to be very volatile with ongoing hostilities, especially impacting our peacekeeping operations in Lebanon. Tragically, as you know, the UN interim force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, has suffered 3 fatalities in the last few days. And as we've said repeatedly, these incidents are unacceptable and demand full accountability. Investigations by us are underway, and despite the challenging situation on the ground, we hope to be able to update you with those results as soon as possible. These investigations take time, as technical experts examine physical evidence on the scene, while others look at the context and liaise with parties to collect and verify information. The circumstances on the ground are such that deconflicting with parties in some instances have prevented the timely access of UN personnel to the incident scenes for investigations, and that, of course, has caused delays.
The International Organization for Migration has announced the displacement of 1,725 people from the city of Qaisan in the Blue Nile State, southeastern Sudan, in the second wave of displacement in the state of recent days due to escalating clashes between the army and the rapid support paramilitary forces. Masoud Sharfi again.
The organization reported that 1,725 people, or 345 families, were displaced recently from Qaisan due to worsening insecurity, moving to Rusayers and Wad al-Mahi, while noting that the situation remains extremely tense and is being closely monitored following the first displacement on March 25th. Recently, the IOM reported 1,645 people displaced from Qaisan due to escalating clashes. For the past 2 weeks, Blue Nile state has seen rising confrontations between the Sudanese army and the RSF. IOM launched a $277 million appeal to expand its humanitarian action in Sudan and neighboring countries in 2026 as the conflict enters its third year. In the same connection, IOM Director General Amy Pope warned that displaced families lacking housing and income still hope to rebuild their lives, needing urgent, sustainable international support. The funding aims to strengthen humanitarian mechanisms, expand aid via Farshana hub to hard-to-reach areas, improve population monitoring, and support recovery by restoring services and livelihoods. Since April 2023, the conflict has displaced over 12 million people, with more than 9 million still internally displaced and 33.7 million in urgent need. Faced with this, the IOM urged immediate coordinated aid and called on the international community to step up support to prevent further risk. In the same regard, the IOM also reported that a fire at the Al Umda IDP camp in North Darfur destroyed 180 homes and damaged 25, displacing 205 families who were relocated to open areas. Such fires worsened the already dire humanitarian situation, with thousands of displaced families around Al Fasher reliant on aid amid limited services and fragile infrastructure.
Today is World Autism Awareness Day. It's a day to raise global awareness of autism. More on this day and autism in this short program with Mohammed Khatal.